Hi, Gary here. This is our first quarter observer. I was watching Super Bowl 50, and after the game, of course, Cam Newton is getting interviewed on what happened in the loss, and he's kind of sitting there dejected and not looking well, a little bit petulant, and he finally just stands up and walks away. And you really feel for the guy. It was a really bad experience for him, and certainly must have been a tough Monday for the Carolina Panthers. I always think of football as kind of like life. There's a lot of stuff that hits us from the outside. We get jolted, like they did, losing to the Denver Broncos. And it's how we react to that right after that jolt that makes a big difference in our life. And we've been told we can control our feelings and our emotions and our thoughts. You know what? Jolts hit, then maybe we can do it. But what I do know what it is, it's always been an inside-out thing. Nothing out there matters, it's what happens inside. I say, why is that important? Well, I'm going to just take some statistical stuff because I want to kind of build on what's been happening of late here, at least relative to the way we consume information. I'll take battle deaths. You go back 10,000 years in these little communities, hunter-gatherers of 250 people, they had 20 to 50% of the people died from battle deaths. Look how large that is. In the 18th and 19th centuries, we had 1,000 people per 100,000 people dying per year from battle deaths. You take it forward now to the last 60 years, we had 60,000 people a year from battle deaths down to under 5,000 a year. And so what we've seen happen over the last 60 years and even over the last couple hundred years is this continuous decline on what's happening, at least in the world, relative to that. Another interesting thing has taken place. The very first democracy really in modern times was the United States. And we've had democracies move up, but not until the last 40 years. In 1970, there were more non-democratic states in the world than democracies. And in fact, the number of autocratic regimes and dictatorships have gone from 90 down to under 30 over the last 40 years. And that's pretty big. And the number of democracies have gone up over 90 plus in the last 40 years. So we've seen this really great trend in democracy, freedom in particular, take place in the world. We've still got ISIS and a lot of problems in the Middle East, and that's an area that has not had that change yet. So we still got a lot of work to do. The other thing we've seen statistically is a steady decline on murders and violent crimes and rapes and everything else across the United States. Well, why am I bringing this up? Because those are facts. That's what took place. And what I'm finding is from the major media sources, that's not what you get. You get a lot of stuff on a daily basis that says it's getting worse. Every day is worse than the day before. It's not getting better. We need to make change. And that is just fundamentally not true. And the reason I know it's not true, because a lot of people now that I run into who are entrepreneurs, who are business owners, people I respect, people like you, retirees, you're picking and choosing your news appropriately so that you get the information you need to live your life and staying away from the entertainment side of it that tends to be very rhetorical, not fact-based, and really does cause a lot of noise out there to make it very difficult. If you look back at Len Dawson, he lost to Bart Starr in the first Super Bowl in 1967. I don't think we had that camera in for a close shot to see the micro expressions on his face like we did for somebody like a Cam Newton. Man, it's totally changed. And I think it makes a big difference. Still, he had a jolt and had the same thing happen, but we didn't see all of that, and he had whatever his response was at that time relative to that. But this is definitely an inside-out thing. We don't want to allow this outside stuff coming in. So it gets to my main point. What's going on in the investment world? Well, the Gloom and Doomers newsletters are just starting to pop out of the woodwork in the last several months because everybody's worried about possibly getting worse, going into recession and everything else, and those guys just come out and hammer people. And I'll tell you this, if I sat down and read 3 of those in an hour, the first thing I would be doing is selling my house, my car, everything else, getting gold coins, moving to my cabin in Montana, getting all my weapons ready to go, and a couple of folks to protect my house, and I'd have a little army. But that's really kind of a really knee-jerk reaction to it. But that's how you feel sometimes when you see a lot of this stuff coming out at you from the media, outside sources, and so forth. And I have to remind myself to settle back in, and that it's an inside-out thing. It always has been that way. And it's something that several of my mentors have taught me over the years. Gary, you have jolts in your life. Things hit you. It's what you do next that makes the biggest difference. And so you settle back and you look at it. And for you and I, we got maybe a couple questions in investments. Do we have really valuable investments or not? Warren Buffett was chided in 1999 for saying, value doesn't matter anymore. BS. It does matter. It always has mattered. And if you've got valuable stocks and bonds, they're fine. You're okay. You'll go through some times out there. That's important. That's something to remember. That's factual. The next thing is, can you avoid the next down market? Just move all your stuff out to cash and then get back in when you need to. Boy, that's a tricky, double-sided thing to do, getting out and getting back in. A lot of people have tried it. Really hard thing to do. So it's kind of not something you can do very easily. Many times it's kind of a knee-jerk reaction. And finally, do you have it diversified? Does it not matter if one area craters, another area does not? Yeah, if you're diversified, you're going to be okay. Because again, it's an inside-out thing. You prepared yourself properly. You've got things set up. It's factually correct. It works for where you're going, and therefore it will be okay in the long term. And I just think back to Pearl Harbor in December 7th, 1941, and then Kennedy's assassination. And then the Dow went down 22% on October 19, 1987. And then we had the Twin Towers going down in 2001. And then we had the Great Recession in 2007, 2008. I skipped a bunch of stuff in between. But having that without any information, you'd say the world's horrible. Everything's terrible. And we go through these major jolts as a country. We go through it individually. We go through it as communities. And we come back out of it because we have the solid value. We have the solid things in place that make a difference. Cam Newton is a great quarterback. He's going to be probably one of the best quarterbacks that ever got onto the gridiron. But he had a bad day. And we have bad days. And that's what happens. It's what we do when the bad thing hits afterward. It's an inside-out thing. Till next time, enjoy.